So this is the tree that almost hit our house from the most recent storm and tornado system that just came through Tennessee. And I wanted to walk you through the damage on our property and show you some of the crazy trees that fell down. So you can see right there, that tree snapped off right in the middle. It was hollow on the inside, and then it all fell down right here, getting about 10, 20 feet from our house. And I'm telling you, this storm is like nothing else that I've personally seen before. I'm pretty sure that the tornado came very close to where we were, just based upon like how the wind was. It was all swirling around in a circle. We had all sorts of like leaves and branches hitting our house. I even felt the house shake a little bit on 2 different occasions because the wind was blowing so hard. And when I looked out the window, it was about 3 or 4 a.m. when this big part of the storm came through, and I was looking at probably this tree and many of these other trees. They were just swirling around in a circle pattern like this. I've never seen I've seen trees go side to side, but not rotating around in a circle. And then I saw probably this tree just completely collapse, but it was so dark during the peak of this storm. I could barely even see what was happening, even though there was some good moonlight. But it was kind of crazy because this tree was actually leaning out this direction, but that's not how it fell. It fell completely in the opposite direction, going this way. So, I mean, if you get a bad enough wind, it's just incredible what can happen. So part of my damage is here, right? I've got to fix my high tensile fence here, which isn't that big of a deal. It's not too difficult. You know, some of these broke. I've got a bunch of extra ones, but all I've really got to do is just pull this pin out, put the piece of wire back in, and get it to the right height. So not too much bad damage on this section. But this section is a little bit worse. So here's the worst spot where it hit my H-brace and completely took it out. Bent my pin up, shifted this whole pole here. So this is gonna be the hardest piece of work, fixing this. It even looks like one of my high tensile lines might have even snapped. So I'm just gonna have to rejoin all this, fix this T-post here. Let me show you what happened to this tree, and I'll explain why there's all these tire tracks here too. That's a pretty cool story. So this is one of the few completely uprooted trees. That's probably 20 feet across right there. So, I mean, let me jump in here. Look at this. It's insane how big that is. Just completely ripped out of the ground. Probably 3 feet down in this hole. Totally ripped out and sent the tree going this direction. And, you know, I didn't even think that this tree was in sort of a bad situation, but obviously the roots were not very healthy, weren't as strong, and that wind was just way too much for it. As I walk over here, we can see another tree that started to go right here, lifted. And then look what happened. It's caught up in this tree up in here. So this is not the safest situation here in terms of cutting this down, but we're gonna have to get it down. So about one night after this occurred, I saw a guy about 6 p.m. walking down my driveway towards my house. I was like, who the heck is this? This isn't my neighbor. And went up to him, started talking to him, and lo and behold, he's a guy who does different logging and stuff in the area, and he's been eyeballing my property for a while because he saw me cutting down trees, and so he had wanted to talk with me. And he had his skid loader, his big lumber truck with him and everything. And he's like, hey, you know, do you need these logs gotten rid of, or do you want to just give them to me? I'll help you clean this up with my skid loader, but you just give me the logs, and maybe there's a couple other trees on your property we can cut, and that'll be like the payment for helping you to clean this up. So I said, well, I have some other trees that I still want to thin that are worth money out in this other part of the woods, so it's pretty cool. That night, I mean, he stayed working till like 9:30 with his flashlight on. And he's the one who cleared all this out for me, actually. There was, you know, this huge branches were here. He just pushed everything out of the way. He cut the first part of that log. So, I mean, this guy was like my little angel sent from God to help me, because, man, this whole log here was falling down across the road, and I was selling sheep the next day. So it was something I needed to get moved out of the way. And, you know, I could have done it by myself, but now I got to chop the log in all these small pieces that I can actually move by hand. With his machine, he just tossed it. So that's pretty cool. So he'll be back to help me clean up a little bit more with his machine. So I'm really hopeful that after this storm and all the other dead trees I've taken out, basically anything that's gonna fall down or be damaged in the next few years, it's already happened, and I don't have to worry about any other disasters happening. And check this out. Another uprooted down tree fell on top of that one and crushed it. Now this one I'm not too upset about, because this whole area over here is an area that I have a bunch of other figs and pomegranate and blueberries. So now I'm getting a little bit more light in here. So that one worked out. It wasn't the end of the world to lose that tree, except for the fact that it's fantastic. I mean, this is like 2.5 foot diameter. So this is a great log. As long as the interior is still good, he'll be able to sell that to the logging yard. But look at this. Just absolutely snapped this red oak here. Later today, I'll just come through this, just chop off all these main limbs, just let them fall to the ground and decompose. Maybe he'll be able to push them somewhere, but I'm just gonna get things cleaned up enough so that he can come in and get his saw logs out of here. You know, all these leaning trees and all this, these are the things that are more likely to fall down. So if you're clearing woods and you're trying to decide between different trees, of course, pick the straightest, healthiest trees that don't have holes in the bottom, you know, things like this, that are indicators that is a tree that's gonna last for you. So I just really can't recommend enough that when you're setting up your property, your fences, your house, your garden, you really wanna take a look around at any surrounding trees that are around you. If you see trees that you can tell are dying, they're on their way out, or they're leaning over the area that you're gonna be working or building, I'd recommend just to cut that stuff before you're actually, you know, setting up infrastructure and doing things like this. There were certain trees that I let stand because I was like, well, I'd rather keep the tree, you know, I don't want to have to get rid of it. And it, you know, it should be okay. But over time, I've just realized it's a little bit smarter, safer. Just utilize those trees as building material, firewood, biochar, sell the logs to somebody, sell it yourself to the logging yard, whatever works. But so here's a tree. Here's another example, the final example I'll show you. Another uprooted tree, huge. This is a poplar. So this is a tree I had my eye on for cutting, but it's a nice poplar. You know, I didn't really need to cut it. This is sort of the southern area, so it wasn't affecting the light of my trees too much. But as we can see, this double growing thing, it creates a weaker tree. So, you know, I would advise even cutting out a tree like this if it's in an area that is potentially dangerous for you. And I had more trust in poplars. To me, the most dangerous trees are pine, ash, hemlock, and then the red oak. Those seem to have the most issues with snapping, getting disease, and just dying eventually. So definitely, you know, pay attention to your species. I was not expecting the poplar to be able to just fall over like this. But I think the evidence shows that it's probably because it was a weaker tree from the beginning. Just like think about a seedling in your garden. If you keep two seedlings growing right next to each other the whole time, whether it's a tomato or a zucchini or whatever the plant might be, is it ever gonna grow and produce fruit like you want it to? Is it gonna be more prone to disease pressure and bugs and all this? Yes, it is going to be. So it's the same system and pattern out here in the woods as well. So as you're going through your property, these are just some other really important things to pay attention to. And as you can see of my broken fence right there, there's a couple more trees. I should have taken the time and effort to cut those out before I put up my fence. And I hope that advice will serve you well. I wanted to shoot this video real quick because I'm on a brand new camera. I'm switching things over to a lighter setup that's going to be a lot easier to travel around with. So I've got some big announcements coming to you guys soon. I'll make some official videos where I kind of explain my next steps in my journey here. So I will be talking to you guys soon. Hope you enjoyed this one. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.